Hi there and welcome to the first video on SketchUp 2025 for Building Point SA. We're excited to be taking a closer look at this latest release of SketchUp, and this year's new features are astounding. There's some really cool additional tools available, there's some really cool new 3D models in the libraries, and there are some wonderful visual enhancement features. So what we want to do today is take a few minutes to highlight the PBR and environmental settings, and then offer you an opportunity to leave some comments below to highlight to us what you specifically have seen in 2025 that you want to further expand on. Do we need to do a webinar for it at the end of the month? Should we do a workshop? Should we release a couple of videos to really describe to you a workflow? Let us know in the comments below. For now, today we're going to spend a little bit of time on that environmental tab. So let's go to the 3D warehouse, download a slightly larger model that gives us a little bit to play with. Let's look for a villa. And then something that's not too big, a few megabytes. Here's something from Lucas Lipka. This 11 megabyte model won't harm us too much. And let's click on the origin point to just lock that in once that arrives. And there we get our 3D environment. Let's get rid of the image. And let's leave the ground plane and the trees where they are. So here's our 3D environment, and I can no longer find TomTom. There he is. Let's drag him out onto the veranda for a moment. And off that ground plane. So this is the environment where we can now see a SketchUp model, and behind us is the sky. So in the new environmental tab, and I'll show you here, environments, we can see that there are 18 different sky maps available. So let's just quickly change them up. We will go from the partial clouds to this grassy fields. And we can't see much of the grass because at the moment the fog is still on. Let's turn that off. And then go to styles and turn off under edit the ground settings. So now we can see this environment is not all that different from our palm tree villa. There's a little lake in the background. And what we can do is, once we position the camera back to TomTom and take a good look at this home, we can, in the environmental tab under edit, change the rotation angle. So we can bring that lake a little bit closer to us. There it is in the background. And we can change the impact of the exposure of the sky dome. It feels like a little bit of a whitewash. So let's leave that at 1.5. And then we can change the actual reflection. So this reflection can be increased or decreased. Let's leave it at 2. And then the rotation angle will of course also change the way that the sun illuminates our building, and where there are clouds it will cast a little bit of a shadow. So that's a great way to bring the intensity of the sunlight into our environment, and as we keep shifting the camera we can hopefully find the right kind of look and feel. Now what's important to realize this, and let me just save this as a scene. The shortcut isn't working on my keyboard, so we'll go to View Animation, Add Scene. My mouse is being a bit slow. Let's update as a new scene. Okay, great. Now if I do select some of these other environments, you can see that if I switch to this old dilapidated warehouse, or I switch to a snow-covered field, that it gives the whole model a very different ambient feel. If I turn the actual image off, what we're left with is this sort of icy white looking villa. If I go back to my dilapidated warehouse, we can see a sort of brownish warm environment. If I go back to the grassy field, the farm environment, or back to my scene 1 for all intents and purposes, we see this sort of warm, bright intensity. Whatever you want to showcase to your client, just be aware that these environment maps, although they give wonderful reflection, although they make everything warm up and very bright, depending on that environment, it will create that ambient lighting on your model, so it will feel part of it. And this is great for it to sit in the right environment. You might be on a site visit with something like an Insta360 camera, right? You might have one of these. You take a photo, and that photo will give a very good reflection of your specific environment where you are planning with your client to enhance their specific site that they're building. So for a moment, let's go on to a Google search and type in HDRI skies. What we'll see is automatically there are HDRI skies, there's Polyhaven, and this as a resource gives you quite a nice set of skies and environments that are all accessible for free. You can support them by making an annual donation or a monthly donation, and their servers, I must say, are really sharp and bright. So even when you're downloading a 100 megabyte 8K map, you get a very fast download speed. So do support them. And what I would like to suggest for now is when you choose a map that gives you either a background or a lighting intensity that suits your needs, pay attention to that second globe. You can see there how warm or how cold or how intense the light is shining onto your object, your subject, your design, right? So this Rockland moonlit night, you can see it's quite a warm or quite a middle of the range white. You can see this rural asphalt road. It gives quite a bright white light, slightly warm. But for example, this lonely road afternoon, this pure sky environment, gives you almost like a bluish, high intensity light environment. So each of these will give a very different reflection. Now I did download a few maps, so let's for a moment go to the plus icon in the environmental tab. And then you can see under my downloads that I have a Rosendahl Plains and a Studio Small. So let me load the Rosendahl Plains in and see for a moment as that environment changes how it affects the lighting on my 3D model. So I'm going to position the camera a little bit closer to my ground plane, maybe even change my field of view from 35 to 50 degrees, really get up close there. And we can see that that environment now, as we change the rotation angle, gives a very different look and feel to our environment. So I did notice that that rotation angle, specifically in the beginning, had a much better reflection. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the sun location manually. So I'm literally going to click on the sun location as I see it in the image. You can see I can drag that around using the sliders as well, or just clicking on the image. And then when I change the rotation angle, you can see the sun actually matches with my image. So for now, I'm going to keep it quite unchanged from the start. I'm going to get some light in that courtyard. And then you can see how that interplays. We will leave the field of view at 50 and go back to our panning tool. And then this is the lighting that we get. Turning the environment off does not make the light disappear. The light is still there, but at least the background is no longer. Maybe the ground plane, maybe deleting the ground plane. In this case, let's go back to scene 1. You can see scene 1 brings back that farm HDR. The nice thing is that our Rosenthal HDR is still here. And we'll use that environment skydome. Let's go out of this group for a moment. Close component. Yeah, there we go. So now it really gives us the feeling like we're standing in this environment. And the lighting, this rotation angle and everything else that's available to us gives us a really nice way of looking at our model in relation to the location where our client wants to have their project realized. So a great way to create a really immersive look and feel for our model. I hope this has been a wonderful feature explanation. If you want a workshop or a webinar or some kind of step-by-step workflow guideline video, Please let us know in the comments below which feature from SketchUp 2025 you need help with, and we'll gladly make you a few more videos.